everyone, greetings to all. I hope you all are studying well. And today I am starting this revision for CA Final ISCA paper, the paper number 6. It is the last attempt for this paper. For the entire CA Final and CA Intermediate Old Syllabus, this May 21 is the last attempt, right? So, in this revision series, I am going to revise everything in the form of in the MCQ format. This is the MCQ book which is available on my portal, and this has been compiled by me, covering all the chapters of the CA Final ISCA paper, and also the new MCQs, and also all the additional MCQs available in the RTP, MTP, and all areas given by the institute. I have covered here. So totally around 180 pages. This entire MCQ concept is covered. The reading of this MCQ will not only cover the MCQ part, but it is equivalent to a revision. That's what I'm going to do the revision here with the help of MCQs, so that you can revise the entire topic. In between, I'll be even toggling to my study material prepared by me. This is the new study material prepared for the May 2021 attempt, and it is completely revamped with the additions to it, and it is even more well organized than the previous version of the book. To buy these two books or to know more about these books, you can find the link in the description box below, and there accordingly you can take this book. So how I'll be revising, I'll be first going with the MCQs of the chapter, and here and there where I find some key words, I will come back to this PDF of mine, the notes of ISCA, and we'll be revising the side headings or the main points out of it. So if you spend at least an hour a day for ISCA, it will be a good choice to do, so that you won't feel the burden of the revision of this great theoretical paper in the exam. The good part of ISCA is that it does not have any amendments. The 8 chapters are fixed. The thing what it needs is lot of revision and memory. So once you do the continuous revision and memory, you'll be able to present well in the exam, and you need to write continuously the paper. Then the ISCA goes and stands somewhere. Okay, so before I proceed, and before I say continue, I want to share a small notice to people that I do have one-to-one mentoring. I know people may say there are a lot of people out there with the mentoring thing, but I want you to understand that this is a bit more different. You can find the description in the link about the books. It is one-to-one, face-to-face for 45 minutes. You can here discuss the key areas where you're struggling, and sometimes it may happen that you need some guidance to know which part to take and how to proceed for the examination, because I have taken more than 5 attempts to clear my exam, so I do understand the pain which people go through while preparing for this examination. So if you want any one-to-one guidance, the call will be on Zoom Meet. You can see the description in the link, the description of that mentorship in the link given in the description box below. Okay, so now let's get started. So let us go through the first chapter today. There is a sequence of chapters which you generally do, but for this revision I'll go chapter wise, chapter 1, 2, 3 and so on, so that it can be even convenient for you. But once the 8 chapters are released, you can see the chapter as per your convenience. Okay, but I still recommend for you people who are revising to follow the ISCA revision sequence. The YouTube is already available on my channel, so you can just see the sequence through which you can study and revise, which chapter should be started for studying and revising ISCA. Okay, so let us now start with this first chapter, chapter 1, concept of governance and management of information systems. Okay, so if you see the chapter here, it is a bit more it's a kind of lengthy chapter, almost covering for 20 pages. So if we see the chapter wise, the first one, it is covering mostly of the enterprise governance and the business governance concepts, and the benefits of governance, like achieving the enterprise objective, defining, encouraging desirable behavior, implementing, integrating desired business process, providing stability to the organization, and improving customer behavior. These are the benefits of governance, and this chapter completely focuses on what is the models of governance, and the importance of risk management, and how the IT will help in achieving these things. So it is all about the governance aspect. It is not about the audit. It is not about the chapter 7, the legal framework. It is completely about the type of modalities or the models available in the global space, which are designed for the implementation of the IT. Okay, so it is people sometimes feel it is much more complicated. No, it is not complicated. Is that it is defining of the existing available systems in place. That's why we feel it is a bit more technical. Yeah, it's a bit lengthy, of course, I do agreeable, but it covers a good weightage in the exam. For the weightage part, you can see my last video. It's a bit old one, which is for the May 2021 exam only. It shows the weightage of the chapters for ISCA, which you can see the weightage of chapter 1, and accordingly you can rank it where in what number is the chapter in your preparation. Okay, so first let us go one by one. Following are the learning objectives of ISCA in CA final. This is the first paper of the ISCA study material. Most people generally don't read the first papers, maybe the foreword, but I feel this can come as an answer. It was never asked till date, but still, being the old syllabus students, we should not take a chance of losing a mark also. Okay, so what are the objectives of ISCA? First one, to understand how to perform auditing, including collecting and evaluating evidence in IT environment, to assess information system acquisition, development and implementation strategy, including review of SDLC, system development lifecycle, to access business continuity plan of enterprise for adequacy from perspective of going concern. One thing we know that the IT environment is not restricted to just invoicing or processing of the data or stock or taking a stock in any godown or something. It is everywhere. From taking a photocopy to using the Wi-Fi day to day, we are integrated with IT. So why we are doing ISCA? The thing is that to understand, yes, to understand how we are doing the auditing thing, because we are the auditors, we should understand any environment in which audit is involved. Then we need to know how the system acquisition and system development life cycle takes place. We must also know what are the continuity plan, because if you remember the audit thing, we have this we check the going concern concept, so we need to take care of the business continuity for the enterprise. So the four, all the above, the D will be the answer for this. One thing friends, I'm sorry, my webcam is not functioning, and even the external webcam is not being supported by the laptop for some time, so I can't on the webcam though I want to. So as of now you must adjust with this thing of what I'm recording here. Okay, so what is the answer? Answer is all the above. Next, second question. Enterprise governance in an organization exercised by who? Exercises the enterprise governance in an organization? Board? Is it the board members? Is it executive management? Is it both or none? Who is executing it? So enterprise governance, what is the definition of enterprise governance? Let us see here. See, enterprise governance is also has two concepts. It's the corporate governance, which conforming to the values stakeholders thing, and is business governance. So, what is corporate governance? It is defined as system by which the company enterprise is directed. So, if there is a proper mechanism which company is directed, control. Why they are doing this? To achieve a particular goal, to achieve the objective of increasing shareholders' value and enhancing economic performance. Corporate governance concerns the relationship between the management and the stakeholders and the board of directors, right? The conformance dimension of the governance provides a historic view and focus on regulatory requirement. In simple, it is the topmost thing, the governance thing, which has the relationship between the board, the management, and the stakeholders, and it tries to increase the shareholders' value by increasing economic performance. Now, what is business governance is also called as performance. This performance dimension is always proactive in approach. So, it is mostly focused on the business looking view. So, it is not much concerned with the stakeholders but with the business minded. So, this focus mostly on strategy creation, enhancing value of the organization, and helping the organization to achieve its objective. And the board will make strategic decisions here. So the board will make strategic decision depending upon the risk capability of the enterprise and also the key performance drivers. So uh, the enterprise governance here, the corporate governance and the business governance both requires the involvement of the board of directors, and corporate governance and both has some influence of the management also. So who, so the question, what is the answer? Enterprise governance is exercised by board and executive management. Okay, so we have even covered the revision of that part. So just sit and relax, keep listening to this. Maybe it may go around since I'm not sure if it's for small one, but I'm sure it will be for an hour. So at least one lesson will be covered and you can keep on going with your other subject preparation. Next, third one. Dash is defined. What is defined as system by which company or enterprise is directed and controlled to achieve the objective of increasing shareholders' value by enhancing economic performance. What is the key term we learned just now? If it is for increasing shareholders' value, it is corporate governance. If it is business oriented, strategic level, or is it proactive approach, then it is business governance. So here the answer will be a corporate governance. Okay, so this focuses on increasing the stakeholders value and relationship between the board of directors and the stakeholders. Then business governance is what is an approach. So it is mostly proactive in approach. It is not inactive, it is always active. It is not highly active, but it's proactive, means it tries to take a forward looking view. So it tries to take decision a bit more, thinking in advance what can be the possible future. Okay, then friends, don't take ISCA as something which you are just reading book for you need to pass. Of course you need to study because you need to pass, and this paper demands a lot of concentration, but after this you have a scope of forensic audit. Okay, you have scope for going cyber security, many more. Then what are the benefits of GIT? It provides consistent approach, integrated, aligned with enterprise governance approach. What is GIT? GIT, if you can try to recollect the definition, it is governance of enterprise IT. Okay, so it provides consistent approach, integrated and aligned with the enterprise governance approach. Okay, it ensures that IT related decisions are made in line with the enterprise strategy, objective, IT related process are overseen effectively, transparently, and governance requirement for the board members are met. It confirms compliance with legal and regulatory requirement. All the above. So what can be here? What is meant by the GEIT? So governance of enterprise IT will help in integration and alignment of the enterprise, helps in decision making, process can be overseen, and confirm legal compliance. So we can say GEIT benefits are all the above. There is nothing which is not a benefit from governance of enterprise IT. Then what provides reasonable assurance regarding prevention of timely detection of unauthorized acquisition? So there is a reasonable assurance that we will detect that there is unauthorized acquisition or use or disposition of the company's assets that could have material effect on the financial statements. So what is those things? So is it internal control that will provide a reasonable assurance? So what does that sentence mean? Sentence means there must be a system which is providing reasonable assurance that anything that has been taken out of the enterprise is directed. Okay, so are the risk factors? No, risk factors will not provide any reasonable assurance. Are the audit hooks? Audit hooks will try to find out after the event has happened. And governance of enterprise IT, no, it will not provide any assurance regarding the company assets. It only provides assurance regarding information technology and its effective compliance. So internal control is the right answer. Internal control provides reasonable assurance that regarding prevention or timely detection of unauthorized acquisition, use or disposition of the company's assets, so that could have material effect on the financial statements. Then dash is a process affected by the entity's board of directors. Once the name comes entity's board of directors, something must strike in your mind. Board of directors means it is related to corporate governance thing. Manage, so what is the process affected by the entity's board of directors, management and other personnel applied in strategy setting. So you're trying to set a strategy across the enterprise designed to identify potential event that may affect the entity. So what are those events that can affect the entity? You're trying to manage it, you're trying to identify it. Then what will be the effect on the entity? You're trying to manage the risk to be with the risk appetite of the enterprise and to provide reasonable assurance regarding achievement of the entity's objective. So what is the entire thing? What is the process is called? Is it enterprise risk management? Yes. Enterprise risk management is the only process which will analyze the risk to be faced by the enterprise and see if it is within the risk appetite of the enterprise. Is it enterprise resource management? No, we are not managing any resources here. Resource is a part of the enterprise, and resource is a part of the entire risk management. And enterprise work management, how the strategies is only a part of the board of directors actions. And of course risk management will define how the work should be done. So the first will be the right answer. Next, dash is issued by Sebi. Okay, let us not say dash, let's say what is issued by Sebi in India, in which is similar lines of SOX regulation and mandates inter alia the implementation of the enterprise risk management and internal controls and holds the senior management legally responsible for the implementation. So what are those things that introduced Sebi? Sebi is the the leader of the stock market, right? He is the one who controls everything. So what is issued by Sebi, so that it is equivalent to SOX of the US, so that it will help the Indian enterprises to implement enterprise risk management. So generally it is it Sebi regulation? No, regulation is for the entire thing. It is not for particular enterprise risk management and internal control. Is it clause 47? No, clause 47 is for some is not for this enterprise risk management. Is it clause 49? Yes, clause 49 tells about the implementation of ERM and internal controls, and it holds the management responsible for it. And mutual fund guidelines, no, it is only for the mutual fund, not for the entire stock market itself. So clause 49 of listing agreement is for the is in line with SOX regulation. Then functions of IT steering committee. I think this question is a bit more important. Let us once revise the important points of IT steering committee. If we see here importance of the IT steering committee, so what do they actually do? So these people are a bit more, you can say, they are like the backbone for the implementation of the things within the enterprise. Okay, so uh, let us once see what are the functions of the committee. What are the functions of the IT steering committee? To ensure that long and short range plans of the IT department are in tune with the enterprise goals and objectives. To establish size and scope of the IT function and set priority within the scope. Revise with me, people. Please revise with me. Don't think that I'm not seeing and you don't think that I'm seeing and studying or what is the use of it. No, revise with me, because ISCA you have written many times. If I'm at least one time you have attended this ISCA paper, so revise with me and get this thing done, and then you can happily sit on your TT and AMA paper. Okay. Second, to review and approve major IT deployment projects at all the stages. To approve and monitor, these words important to ensure long and short range plans. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, short range plans. To establish size and scope of IT function, review and major IT deployment projects, to approve and monitor key projects. Then by measuring result of IT project in terms of return on investment, so how much you're investing, how much you're getting back. To review the status of IS plan budgets. To review and approve standard policies and procedures. To make decisions on all key aspects of IT deployment in the organization and its implementation. To facilitate implementation of IT security, this is the most important thing. To facilitate and resolve conflicts in deployment of IT, because when you're deploying something new, one person may accept, one person may not. So these people will try to reduce the conflict and see that there is a viable communication system exists between the IT and its users. So there must be a good understanding between the users and the IT people. Then to report to the board of directors on the IT activities on regular basis. So the people even do some advice also. So these important words, if you not highlight in the exam, but if you write like this, it is going to definitely fetch you almost 3.5 marks for 4 marks, for 3.5 to 4 marks for the 5 marks answer. Okay, so let us come back to the question. What are the functions of IT steering committee include? To review and approve major IT deployment projects, yes, they do that. To approve standards, policy and procedure, yes, they do. To make decisions on all aspects of IT deployment implementation, yes, they do. So answers all the above. Then automated data repository dictionary, data syntax rules, data ownership and criticality security classification, and information model representing the business, enterprise information architecture standards are the sorry, what did I just say? I think, yeah, correct. Enterprise information architecture standards are the enablers of. So these all comes under which part? So see, when you're studying, if you study only the practice manual, I think it is not going to help. So please complete the study material, then come back to this. So you can even take the my material, it has all these things. So these things 1 to 5 of 10th bit which you're seeing, they form part of what? So what is the, you can just say, so when some such thing comes and you are blank out of the answer, so you can just try that there's a hint in the answer itself. Example, architecture standards, so you can say these all, the syntax rules, automated data repository, dictionary, data security classification, information model, system architecture, all these forms a part of the information architecture. So it is the method or the plan in which the system is being built. So it is information architecture. It is not IT development process. It is not does not belong to any development category. Not the process. It is complete architecture. Architecture, it means it is the structure through which the entire IT is being built. So these points belong to that. Okay. Then comes 11th, dash includes specific application system to be developed at an associated time schedule, hardware and software acquisition, development schedule, facilities required, organization change required. So we have, if you remember the first chapter, we have enterprise strategic plan, information system strategic plan, information system requirement plan, information application facilities plan. Let us see here. See, let us try to first understand the difference. Where are we going wrong? So we have enterprise strategic plan. So this plan comprises overall charter of the enterprise. So what units it has, what are the information system required for each unit. For example, sales team in the unit requires things which comes from outside to the storage thing. So they need the purchase requisition and also they need the warehouse thing. And the sales people need the sales information and the warehouse dispatch. So these things, which units are there, what should be the data, what should be systems deployed, is covered in the enterprise strategic planning plan. Then information system strategic plan, it is a focus on striking a good balance. What is the keyword? Striking balance between IT opportunity and business requirement. So these two there must be a balance which is taken care by the information system strategic plan. Means when the opportunity is available, we must have the business need and IT must be supporting it. So this requires strategic planning to be undertaken at regular intervals. So it's not just one time plan. It takes a minimum between, you must be revising the plan. It's a long term planning and this plan must be translated into operational plan. So this system, this information system strategic plan, helps in converting the strategic ideas into operation plan. Okay, then information system requirement plan. Enterprise needs to have defined information structure. So what is information to us? Is it the purchasing pattern? Is it the sales pattern? Is it the student requirements? So what is the information structure? And how can we generate the requirement from the information system what we have? So to know what is the requirement, we must have proper information with us. So the business must ensure that the business information model is properly collecting required information and it must be periodically tested to collect the required information. Then information system application requirement plan. So what is this thing? One on the basing upon the information system architecture, which depending upon the information flow or information needs of the organization, that is the architecture thing. We will define and develop a information application, information systems application. So the needs of the organization are defined and they're articulated, the flow is defined, which will give the architecture. Depending upon that, an application is created. So the senior management is very much involved. In every way senior management is involved, but here it is mostly involved because this is the place where the information flows properly and the structure must be well defined. Okay, so they try to develop an application which will show how the information goes from where to where. It may take even 1 to 3 years in preparing this applications there. So if we come back to our question, so which all this will include? So dash includes specific application system to be developed. Okay, so application system is being developed means the structure is defined and we know the information flow. That's why application is being developed. And associated time schedule. So when we want to develop application, we must have hardware, software, schedule, time, and all facilities. So what will be the right answer? It will be the information system application facilities plan. Then 12th one. This will be the most important, and I think this bit is you all can do easily this bit. Understand enterprise direction, assess the current environment, capability and performance, define the target IT capabilities, conduct a gap analysis, define the strategic plan roadmap, communicate the IT strategy and direction. So what are these things? So if you understand, it's like starting of a routine, doing it and ending it. So we will understand the enterprise direction, assess the environment, define target capability, conduct the gap, define strategic map, and communicate the IT strategy and direction. So these all belong to what? Does it belong to which are the four? IT strategy with the business, IT strategy with the enterprise strategy, IT governance with the business governance, corporate governance and business governance. So these practices like understanding, assessing, defining, conducting and communicating, these practices are required for aligning, for making equal the IT strategy with the enterprise strategy. Okay, then common source of risk. What can be the common source of risk? Generally the risk can be the legal transactions or the commercial transactions, economic circumstances, or even like the COVID-19 pandemic, or even the note ban thing, political circumstances, or all the above. Yes, common source of risk will be all the above, because we don't know from where risk will be coming. Okay, then we have the 14th one. Let me know in the comment section how this thing is going on. I know it's a bit heavy on the ISCA thing, but still it's good if you once revise and you can go to other papers. But it's compared to direct tax and other papers, ISCA is something which you can do a bit more hard work and get stable results out of it. Okay, then comes the 14th question. Which is the weakness in the system safeguard that exposes the system to threat? So if there is a weakness, then only it creates a threat. Okay, it potentially allows a threat or harm to exploit the system. So what is that thing? What is the weakness in system which will invite a threat to us? It is vulnerability. Attack is not the weakness. Attack is something you will do. Threat is something which you have a weakness. So threat is not the weakness. Risk is something which when you have a weakness, there is a threat and that will increase the risk for you. So vulnerability is the weakness in the system safeguard that will expose the system for threat. Okay, then a threat cannot exist without what? See, if there is a danger exists. If there is something to be afraid of, it exists only when something is available there, and it also exists only when there is a weakness. So a threat cannot exist without a vulnerability and target asset. So when there is an asset, if it is a weak, the weakness will cause the threat to occur and damage to happen. Okay, so this is the 15th bit of the day. So we're having totally 50 questions in this chapter number 1. We'll do 50 and then only we will take this, we'll complete the revision of the chapter number 1. Okay, so let us see some more here. Okay, we have seen this key management practices for aligning IT strategy with the enterprise strategy. Thus, understanding enterprise direction, assessing the current environment, capability and performance, define the target IT capabilities, conduct the gap analysis, define the strategic plan roadmap, and communicate the IT strategy and direction. So these are the key management practices for aligning the IT strategy with the enterprise strategy. Okay, then one more thing, key management practices which need to be implemented for evaluating whether the business value is derived from IT, which are we have 3 matrices there. What is evaluate value optimization, direct value optimization, and monitor value optimization. So always when key management practices come in any question, remember evaluate, direct, and monitor, and add that lines there. Okay, then you can just have a quick review of this question. There is success, like what are the measures by which we can say that we are getting the benefits of IT enabled investment, like what is the measurement criteria so that the IT benefits are getting to the organization. First thing, percentage of IT enabled investments where the benefits are realized are monitored through full economic life cycle. Means entire economic life cycle of that project you are able to see the benefits you are getting from the investments made. Then the percentage of service where expected benefits are realized. Then percentage of those IT services where the required benefits are met or even more benefit have been received. The percentage of the investment business which have been clearly defined, approved related IT cost have been clearly defined and we were able to meet that. Then percentage of IT services were clearly defined and approved operational cost and expected benefits. So it is approved things. There are two things which are clearly the IT investment is clearly defining, and we know what is the approved expected IT related cost. The IT services are clearly defined and we know what are the approved operational cost and expected benefits. Then the last measurement is satisfaction survey of the stakeholders regarding transparency, understanding, and accuracy of the IT financial information. Okay, then comes, we have some of the terms if you can see, like what is meant by risk, asset, vulnerability, exposure, likelihood, threat, attack, and risk assessment, what is meant by countermeasure. So this question also forms an important part. What are the is sometimes comes like in every 2 or 3 times once he asks this question, what are the risk management strategies? Risk management strategies are totally 5. They are tolerate, that is accept the risk, terminate or eliminate the risk, transfer or share the risk, treat or mitigate the risk, and turn back. So tolerate and accept risk means something very negligible, which is common, mandatory, you can't avoid it. Terminate or eliminate the risk means you don't do the activity, the risk will not come to you. Transfer or share the risk means taking insurance and reinsurance. Treat or mitigate the risk means to take necessary proper actions so that the risk can be mitigated, like keeping proper fire safety equipment and those things. Then turn back means don't bother about the risk, it is so small that you need not even worry about it. So that is the risk management strategy. Okay, let's before proceeding, let's go back to MCQs. Okay, the gap between the need to protect the system and the degree of protection applied is caused due to why. So we will try to see the risk, we try to apply this the protection, and there is some, before we apply it or soon after we apply, the technology gets changes. So what is the gap that is causing this? What are the options we have? Widespread use of technology, yes. Elimination of distance, time and space as a constraint, unevenness of the technological changes, external factors such as legislative, legal and regulatory requirement or technological development. So all these three, the use of technology, the distance, time and space, external factors and legal factors, all these things will cause a gap between the need to protect the system and degree of protection applied. Then you have just seen this: tolerate or accept the risk, terminate or eliminate the risk, transfer or share the risk, treat or mitigate the risk, and turn back. These are called as what? These are risk management strategies. These are not risk measuring. We are not measuring any risk in these strategies here. We measure the risk only for uh, transferring or sharing it. See, you can say why not measuring. Here we are not measuring it, we are just classifying depending upon the tactic, depending upon the level and its effect on us. Okay, then this entire we are not mitigating here, we are not monitoring, we are managing the entire concept of risk to the enterprise. Then what are the key management practices for implementing risk management? If you see here, the key management practices of risk management are: collect data, analyze the risk, maintain risk profile, articulate the risk, define the risk management action portfolio, and respond to risk. So you collect the data, you analyze the risk, you make a profile that this is the risk faced by the enterprise, this much protection you must apply. You will discuss and disclose it to every main person and also required people in the organization, and you will define a risk management portfolio, the action portfolio which you need to take, and you will respond to the risk. Okay, so we have all the above. So 18th answer will be all the above. Okay, then dash is the only business framework for the governance and management of enterprise information technology. So what is the framework? So what is the framework which is for governance and management of enterprise IT? So it is COBIT 5 is a framework. COSO, it is a form, it's a coalition of the organizations to form a strategy for the IT. ISCA is also same, it is a governing body for that. IT governance framework is a framework for the development of the IT. But COBIT 5 is an overall embracing technology. It is very highly customizable for every kind of business framework for the governance and management of enterprise IT. It is not for the information systems only, it is for management of the information system. So COBIT 5 will be the answer. Let us see here. Okay, so what is COBIT 5? COBIT 5 GA, it is a governance of enterprise IT framework. It helps the enterprise to manage IT related risk and ensure compliance, continuity, security and privacy. COBIT 5 enables clear policy development for good practice of IT management, including increased user satisfaction. So COBIT 5 will try to increase the business and user satisfaction. So it's a very generic framework and it can be used for all the sectors. Okay, so that is the main important thing of COBIT 5. Then what are the components of COBIT 5? In COBIT we have two things: what is the component and one is principle. So always remember the component, we have 5 components, that is framework, process description, management control objectives, management guidelines and maturity model. These are the components of COBIT 5. Now what are the principles of COBIT 5? Principles of COBIT 5 include meeting stakeholders need, covering enterprise end to end, applying a single integrated framework, enabling holistic approach and separating governance from management. So the principles are meeting stakeholders needs, covering enterprise end to end, applying a single integrated framework, enabling holistic approach and separating governance from management. So these are the 5 principles of COBIT 5. This you cannot up and down, no problem. But here you need to focus on one thing: there are 7 enablers of COBIT 5. The components are 5, the principles are 5, but the enablers 7. Enablers means that will allow the COBIT 5 to function. So what are the enablers of COBIT 5? Principle, remember people, tell with me, revise with me, just complete the ISCA first chapter now. Okay, what is the 7 enablers? You must remember it line by line. So because in my examination, in my ISCA examination, in the MCQ you asked me, among the 4, which the process uh, the process enabler or COBIT 5 is of which number, or something like that. So it's asking me technically where does the process fall, and I think I wrote the answer as 2 as far as I remember. So it's the second thing, that second enabler. So process is the dash enabler in the COBIT 5. Is it 2? Is it 4? Is it 7? Is it 5? So that you need to remember. So there are 7 enablers of corporate 5. There are principal policies and framework, process, organizational structure, culture, ethics and behavior, information, service infrastructure and applications, people skills and competencies. So there are totally 7. You can say it is a I mean, I can form an acronym with some up and down, but I still say no need to do so. You can just try with remembering this 7 line by line. So, principal policy and framework, process, organization and structure, culture, ethics and behavior, information, services, infrastructure and applications, people, skill and competence. So, these are the 7 enablers COVID 5. Okay, so here we have the same thing, so I don't think I need to repeat these things. We have revised it just now what these things are. Okay, then what are the key management or practices of IT compliance? So when you're complying with IT or not, what are the management compliances, what are the management practices to know if you're complying IT or not? First thing, identify the external compliance requirement, means what is the actual compliance that you need to do, what you should do, identify that. You create a good response for that, optimize your response to external requirement. Okay, those are two things. Then confirm the external requirements, then you adhere to the rules, you complete the external compliance requirement and obtain assurance, then obtain a certification from this other public accounting firms like CA or CS or CM, what applies to you. Obtain the assurance from the external compliance requirement. So these 4 are the key management practices of IT compliance. So the answer will be both A and B. Okay, then Dash provides guidance on evaluating and assessing internal controls implemented in the organization. So the question is internal controls. So what will be assessing and evaluating the internal controls implemented in the organization? So first is MEA03, monitor, evaluate, assess, comply with external requirement. No, we need internal controls. APO02, manage risk. We need for the internal control thing, not the entire risk. EDM03, ensure risk optimization, or risk optimization means trying to see the risk is within the risk appetite, but here we need for internal control. So MEA02 is specifically for monitor, evaluate, assess the system of internal control. So the answer D will be the answer for you. Then dash is a subset of overall GRC. So for the overall governance, risk and compliance thing, what is subset? So COBIT is one of the subset of the entire governance, risk and compliance. So we in COBIT we take the concept of governance of enterprise IT, the managing the risk, and we try to see everything is being complied. So COBIT is subset of overall GRC. Fine. The management domain of aligned plan organize, APO is reflected by. So since the question itself gives the answer, APO, the aligned plan organize, is given in this APO 12, manage risk. This is the you can say it's here actually. It is one of the governance process. APO, it has 13 processes, of which the second one the 12th one deals with the managing of the risk. Then best practice of corporate governance includes. So in corporate governance, what is the one of the best things that can happen by implementing it? Okay, clear assignment of responsibility and decision making authority. Okay, to review, approve standard policy procedure. I think corporate governance is the entire large game. So review, approving standards, policy and procedure is only for the IT people. Okay, then other policies and standards is only with the board, but we are acting what is the best practice of corporate governance. So for if you want to have the good thing in the organization, it is not approving the standards, it is assigning the responsibility. The responsibilities must be clearly defined to achieve any good governance there. Okay, only by approving the standard, only by monitoring how the work is done will not help in achieving it. So the answer is clear assignment of responsibility and decision making authority. Then, who has a responsibility to understand, design, and promote the risk management strategy in enterprise? So, risk management strategy, who will understand, design, and promote in the enterprise? It is done by whom? See, understand, it is designing and promoting risk management strategy. So, the top thing, so the top management will do it, middle management will take the orders in implementing that plan, and lower management will do the plan, do the action work. So, top management is the people who design and promote the risk management strategy. Then, the aspect of risk management, ownership, define risk tolerance profile, root cause analysis, risk action plan, etc. helps in review of dash. So, what is the question? what is the aspect of risk management in which the risk tolerance is provided, root cause analysis is defined, and risk action plan is taken. Identification of threat. In identification of threat, we only see what is causing threat. We may see only the risk tolerance profile, but or it can lead only to see the cause of risk, but not the entire thing. Then implementation of safeguards goes to the tolerance thing. Okay, IT reduction, IT risk identification and impact analysis. Yes, this aspect of risk management, the IT risk identification and impact analysis, it talks about the ownership, defines the risk tolerance profile, it sees the root cause analysis and takes the required risk action plan, and then we take the action. So IT risk identification and impact analysis see all these things. Okay, then if we yeah, so if you see here, the risk management has two: risk assessment, risk mitigation. Assessment has identification, analysis and prioritization, while mitigation has reduction, planning and monitoring. Okay, so once go through the benefits of COVID 5. So COVID 5 benefits, like it help in achieving the governance and management objective of the enterprise, creates outcome value from the IT by maintaining a balance between realizing benefit and optimizing the risk, enables IT to be governed and managed in a holistic manner because there will be a proper framework to follow. Then helps enterprise to manage IT related risk and ensure compliance, enables clear policy development and good practice for the IT management, useful for enterprise of all sizes and types, support compliance with relevant laws, regulations, contractual agreement and policy. These are the benefits of COVID 5. Okay, then uh, yeah, you can even once go through the specific success of GSC program. So how can you know that GSC is successful in the organization? So we know that governance risk and compliance program what we are doing is successful when we get the time to execute any program is less, the audit work is happening fast, there's a reduction in the control areas, there's a reduction in expenditure to legal work, reduction in the overall time required for the audit. Okay, improving the streamline of the business through automation, improving timely reports to the organization, and all compliances are available on a dashboard that we know which date what to file. There's a calendar of compliance which we have in our hand. So then we can say GIC program is success. Okay, then let us now go through the next topic here. Which institute specifies about the areas of critical aspects for review as a part of internal audit? So generally when it comes to internal audit thing, what to go in depth is taught by the Institute of Internal Auditors. Okay, it is not given by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, only is given by Institute of Internal Auditors. Then the internal auditor which evaluating the organizational structure must review the following. So what does he remove? Generally the internal auditor must review all the possible things. So he has to see what is the management type, how are the IT people, how is the level of communication between them, is there a good for rapport, or what is system in place of getting the approvals, what is the hierarchy, how the information is being flown in the organization, and what is the evaluation structure, what is the feedback structure. So all these things must be taken care by the internal auditor. So generally the answer should be all the above in such cases. So let us read this option once again for you. The internal auditor will see the interaction between the management and IT personnel, existence of necessary reporting relationship, formal evaluation and organizational IT structure. Yes, he sees all these things. Okay, so next one. Okay, then 31st one. Number of IT related non-compliance issues reported to the board causing public embarrassment. Percentage of stakeholders who understand the policy. So what are these two statements? Are the external compliance, internal compliance? How do we know? We don't remember reading something? Don't worry, this is there in the study material. But for an easy thing, we can say public embarrassment means something related outside the organization. Stakeholders understand the policy. Shareholders may be internal people, but stakeholders are outside. So these two, if you can understand, these are, one is external, that is the public embarrassment. But coming to the percentage of stakeholders, I just told the shareholders are in, the stakeholders are outside, but shareholders are part of stakeholders. So it is somewhat these people are in between. So the best answer will be one is external compliance and one is internal compliance. So D is the right answer. If you can see here, I think it is just, we just passed it. Okay, I'll just show you the thing here. See here. So just a minute, it is here. So if you have just seen what are the compliance requirement of the management for IT thing, so what are the matrices to understand that the compliance has been done. Okay, so to do the compliance, the key management requires these four. The management requires these both, but after the compliance is done, to know it is done or not, how to measure it. First thing, if we see the external thing there, the compliance with external laws, okay, then cost of IT compliance including settlements have come down. Then number of IT related non-compliance issues reported to the board or causing public embarrassment. So if there are high, you can say the compliance is not done. If they are low, we can say compliance is done properly. Then number of non-compliance issues related to contractual agreement with the IT service providers and coverage of compliance assessment. So these 5 factors are for assessing compliance process. So the management practices need to identify, optimize, confirm and assure. But to understand, this is for the management side. But to understand the compliance process, if we done correctly or not, we must see the external laws, non-compliance requirements, then contractual agreements, and then compliance assessment. So how much good we are in complying with the assessment part. Then IT or compliance with internal policies. If suppose this is the above one was for the external laws and requirement, but what about the internal controls defined by the organization? Are the employees and the organization following them or not? How to know that? Number of incidents related to non-compliance of policy. So what are the many employees may complain about their co-workers that these things have not happened, they didn't follow these rules. So how many complaints do you receive in a month time or so? Then who are the stakeholders who actually understand your policy? Then are the policy supported by any particular standards or working practice of the external thing? Then how many times did you review the policy? So these 4 must be done with the internal policies. Okay, so once go through these 2 points, people, before you go to the exam. Next, dash combined with COSO is most widely used framework for implementing IT controls as a part of ERM, enterprise risk management, to meet the governance requirement. So it is you can easily say, ma'am, it's COBIT. Of course, COBIT is the one with combined with COSO, company sponsored organization, which is whenever the COBIT comes, say it is a framework, right? It's a framework for implementing IT controls as a part of enterprise risk management. So COBIT is your answer. ISCA is an organization, COBIT is a framework, ISO 27001 is a standard, ITIL is also a framework. So this COBIT 5 is for the entire ERM and ITIL is only for a particular part. So that's why COBIT will form is the answer for this bit. Then one of the measure for specific success of GRC program. So governance, risk and compliance, what is one thing that you need for particular success? Using a process oriented approach, the question is saying one of the measure. So what is the criteria for specific success? Using process oriented approach? No, because process oriented approach is following a process, it is not a measure for specific success. Defining clearly the GS requirement, you are defining thing, but we need to see the end result. Reduction in expenditure related to legal, regulatory and review area, maybe. Risk action plan assessment, no. A, B and C are the starting process, but we need to assess the end thing. So C, reduction in the expenditure relating to the legal, regulatory review areas is important. Then dash process requires continually identifying, assessing and reducing IT related risk within the levels of tolerance set by the enterprise. So you can understand the tolerance. Tolerance means you're trying to bear something. So you're not monitoring and evaluating, assessing anything here, you're trying to bear it. So when you're trying to bear something which is within the tolerance limit, so you can say you're managing the risk. So APO 12, managing the risk, will be the answer. Then dash process provides guidance on how to ensure the IT related enterprise risk does not exceed risk appetite and risk tolerance and potential for the compliance. So the question is again very simple. It is saying it is saying what is the process that will provide you a guidance so that the IT risk is within the risk appetite. So in APO 12 you are managing the risk, and in EDM 03 you ensure that you are optimizing the risk there. So the answer will be EDM 03, ensure optimization of the risk. Okay, 36 one. The 7 enablers of COBIT 5 dash is regarded as a vehicle to translate the desired behavior into practical guidance for day-to-day management. So what is that thing in the COBIT 5 which is a vehicle for translating the desired behavior into action? So people, policies and framework, process, culture, ethics and behavior, information. Information is not a vehicle to translate desired behavior. Culture culture will influence the behavior, but it will not translate it. Process is the way in which things happen in the organization, but the principal policies and framework, it is the vehicle to translate the desired behavior into guidance. So So this will be the answer for you. Then, the 7 enablers of corporate fire dash is regarded and described as an organized set of practices and activities to achieve the certain objective and produce set of output in supporting achieving the overall IT goal. So, principal policy framework will translate the behavior, the desired behavior into practical aspect, and it is a process the process is the set of practices which will achieve the objective and get the desired output. There's a thin difference. So translating the desired behavior into practical aspect is done by principles. Once the behavior is transferred into desirable practice, then we set the process, and in the process we try to achieve the objectives and get the output as required for the IT goal. So principle is first helps in translating the behavior, while the process after translation will keep the things in track and get the desired objective. Okay, so that is the link between the principle and process. Okay, then comes the 38. Plan, build, run and monitor are the 4 domains of what? So it's very easy. You can say it's the management. So management will plan, top management will just give that objective to achieve, and lower shaft will do. So who is the planning part? Is about middle management. So middle management is a connection between the two, right? So if you can even say, you can say management, because there is just say middle management, but it's a management. There's build, run, plan and monitor. So the 4 domains are done by the management people. Okay, then the last 12, let's complete it off. Dash is the overarching framework that aligns with the other latest relevant standards and framework. So we can say whenever there is alignment things come, where is the overall framework will come, or else when there is a framework which mingles very easily with other things, that the name generally goes to corporate. So you not think much, because COSO is an organization, ISCA is an organization, ITL is a framework for a particular aspect only. So corporate is an overarching, the big framework which aligns with anything in the IT. That is the most, I can say the flexible thing there. Okay, in components of corporate 5, which one is a reference process model and a common language for everyone in the organization? So in corporate 5 there is a reference process model. So we'll refer to something always to we'll take it as a base for creating our own policy, and it has a common language. What is that thing? It's a framework. So framework is structure. Okay, it is not a reference process, or it is not a language. It is a structure of what thing, how, who should do what. Control objective: after the process is set, after the model we follow, we define, then only control will come. When we are doing, control comes. But here we need what is the one, which one among the component of corporate 5, there are 5 components, which one is a reference process model, so which we will refer to. Then process description and management guidelines. Management guidelines we never refer, we try to follow them. Okay, we try to abide them. So the one option what we have is process description. So description, we understand, read the process, and we try to replicate it, try to use it as a reference. So it's the reference process model, common language, and depending upon the process description, we set the model from where we set the model, and using the framework we create it. So framework is the overall thing in which the process description is a part. So generally you can take like that. So process description is the reference model and it's common language for everyone in the organization, and is a component of corporate 5. Then last 10, one of the matrices of risk management. So what can we say? It is one of the technical thing for calculating or seeing the risk management. Frequency of updating risk profile, no, it is frequency of updating risk profile based upon the status of the risk. So here you are not assessing the level of compliance with the risk management, or you're not seeing how the policy is working, but you're trying to, the question is all about how you are and how you are looking, or what is the important part of risk management. In risk management, we always try to update risk profile and see the status of risk assessment. So the percentage of non-critical business process, it is that percentage is for after implementing of risk management. Okay, once if you are not updating the risk, if you are not following the latest trend in the market, then we can't manage the risk. Once we can't manage, then the problems will arise. So the question is, what is the concept, or what is the one thing that is a part of risk management thing? So frequently updating the risk profile and the status based upon the risk management. Then 42, consciously accepting the risk as a cost of doing the business. I think this is the first thing which we studied in the risk management. So we accept the risk because it's a part of doing the risk. For example, if you're doing online teaching, so what is the risk? We have many, like there can be internet issues, there can be a recording thing, there can be equipment failure. So this is something which we need to accept it. So accepting comes back that we are not eliminating it, okay, and we are not turning back or we are not transferring, we are accepting comes under tolerating the risk. Okay, then outsourcing the infrastructure management. Outsourcing infrastructure management means giving the work to any building management company which comes regularly, visits your organization, sees the fire safety equipment, sees the water safety equipment, sees the electric circuit equipment, everything. It does the maintenance, everything there. So it is what you're transferring the risk there. Okay, it's example thing here. Then risks that are left even after safeguards applied should be kept at minimal acceptable level. So what is this risk called? All you apply, everything you do, still some risk is left. That is called residual risk, which it must be kept at the minimum level there. Then dash is defined as a procedure and practice to assure that computer facilities are available at all required time, the data is processed completely and efficiently, and that access to data in computer system is restricted to authorized people only. So what is this? What is the statement? The statement is saying that we have in place that the computer facility is always available, the data is completely processed well, it can be accessed from anywhere and accessed only for authorized people. What is this? It is providing a security. So IS security is the definition for. Okay, then dash has to be an integral part of overall corporate risk management efforts so that the appropriate risk management in our strategies can be implemented based upon enterprise risk appetite. So based upon the capacity that you can take, which based upon the risk appetite of the enterprise, we describe and define the corporate risk management effort. So the IT governance, it is not enterprise governance. We are not focusing on the business strategy here. We are not here, and here what we are trying to do, we are trying to integrate this governance part, which will be a part of the corporate risk management so that the risk can be minimized. So we are implementing IT governance framework. IT governance must be implemented so that the risk management can be minimum. Once the IT governance and efforts take place to reduce the risk management, then we can apply the risk management strategies. So integrating risk management in the corporate risk management is not the right term. You can't integrate risk management in the corporate risk management. You can integrate in the risk management process, you can integrate IT governance. So maintaining the IT, governing the IT will help to help the corporate, will help to reduce the corporate risk management efforts. Means it will be helpful in combining and effectively giving the risk management measures, and we can develop the systems which is according to risk appetite. So what is the answer here? IT governance is has to be integrated with the overall corporate risk management effort so that appropriate risk management strategy can be implemented based upon the enterprise risk appetite. Then based upon dash of the enterprise, the information system requirement plan has to be drawn. So based upon what? Based upon what will you draw the information system requirement? So based upon the architecture, we don't draw information system based upon security. Threat is existing in everything that we do. So depending upon the risk, we don't draw the requirement plan. Depending upon the audit report, we don't draw the requirement plan. Depending upon the classification of the information, we don't draw the requirement plan. Requirement means what the company needs, what the organization needs. We draw the requirement plan of the IT depending upon the architecture. Architecture is thing where the system person will classify what is the organization all about, what is the process flow, what systems are needed. So depending upon the architecture, we define the information system requirement plan. So what is the answer? Information system requirement plan based upon that of the enterprise. The information system requirement plan has to be based upon the information architecture requirement of the enterprise, information system requirement plan has to be drawn. Then a dash of the enterprise has to focus on striking optimum balance between IT opportunity and IT business requirement. So this is the first one of the first lines. So information strategic system strategic plan. If you have seen the 4 box in the previous PDF, so information system strategic plan of the enterprise first has to focus on striking a balance between IT opportunity and IT business requirement. Then dash is subset of corporate governance and facilitates implementation of a framework of IS control. So this is subset of corporate. What is subset of corporate governance? Generally those people run to corporate. Corporate is not a process subset of corporate governance. Corporate is a process of the GRC. It's for governance require regulation for governance compliance thing. governance, regulation, compliance thing, corporate is a part, it is not a subset. But GEIT, governance of enterprise IT, is a subset of corporate governance and facilitates implementation of framework of IS control within the enterprise as relevant, encompassing all key framework. So GEIT is a subset of the entire corporate governance. Once the governance of enterprise IT, we take the responsibility of governing the enterprise IT. To govern that, we need systems and process and framework that is given by the corporate. So there is a link is there. When we understand that the enterprise must be safeguarded, we take more responsibility to implement, to give the required protection to the organization to understand its IT requirement. We bring corporate framework into picture. Okay, so don't run for everything as a corporate. Corporate is a not last resort for the answer. Last one. Dash refers to system in which directors of the enterprise evaluate, direct and monitor IT management to ensure effectiveness, accountability and compliance of IT. So what is the thing where the directors see that the IT is properly implemented and is effectively there in the organization? It is not GID. GID is the governance of enterprise IT, is not a system. It is a, you can say it is a requirement for the organization. IT architecture, it depends upon the business policy of the company. IT security is for the IT systems which is dependent upon the architecture design. So IT governance is the system through which directors will see, evaluate and direct and monitor the IT management in the organization. Okay, so this is a small difference which you need to understand every time. This covers the first chapter, which is all the MCQs prepared by me, covering the other MCQs also. The other two MCQ videos have been released earlier, which covers all the RTP MTP questions. Okay, this series is of 8 revision videos, probably maybe 10 because of chapter number 3 and 5 a bit lengthy, and extra videos few for the newly released ICA MCQ and case study based MCQs. Okay, then let's see the notes here. Once the this few headings which you need to remember, it can come. What are the evaluating, how does evaluating IT governance structure and practices by internal auditor, what does he do? What does he evaluate? So internal auditor evaluates leadership, organizational structure, process, risk, controls, performance measurement and monitoring. He see how is the leadership, how is the organizational structure, how does the process flow, what are the risks faced by the organization, what are the unhidden risks which they don't see, what are the controls available, what must be improved, and how is the performance and measurement, and how is it monitored. Okay, and what are the sample areas in governance, risk and compliance that is reviewed by the auditor, the sample areas which he sees. So this one here he sees in evaluating the IT thing of the enterprise, are these things there or not. And here in the governance, risk and compliance overall thing, what does he see? He sees scope, what he must do, what he must not do. Governance thing, that how is the organization running. Evaluate the enterprise ethics, risk management, interpretation of the management, risk management process. He understands the risk management, he sees how he interprets the terms used and see how it is being followed. Then evaluate risk exposure, evaluate fraud and fraud risk, address adequacy of risk management process. Okay, so this is done by the sample areas verification of GRC by the internal auditor. Then, and what sample areas does he see for assessing and managing the risk? First one, don't get confused my dear students, here he is going to see for the IT governance the sample areas, here he is going to see for the GRC requirements, and now he is going to see for the how the people are managing the risk. So the internal auditor, generally we recommend the things for reducing the risk, and first we'll see. So what we is going to check to know the management efficiency. First thing, he will see risk management ownership and accountability, who is having the ownership, different kind of IT risk faced with the enterprise, define and communicate risk, what is the risk profile, root cause analysis for this risk, quantitative or qualitative risk measurement, risk assessment methodology, risk action plan and time assessment. So he sees all these things, then he will come to conclusion. So what is the level of risk management strategy maintained by the management, and then he tries to give his advice. Okay, then the comes, I think this is the last thing here, evaluating assessing system of internal control. So here in IT governance thing, generally everything is dependent on internal controls. So if internal controls are tight and good, then only organization work well. For the internal controls thing, we need IT. So we use information technology for the internal controls. So MEA02, it will do monitor, evaluate and assess system of internal control in the organization. So what does it do? For what are the key management practices for assessing and evaluating? So to know that the system of internal controls is working properly, what do we evaluate? We see monitor internal controls, we do continuous monitoring, we review the business process control effectiveness, we do perform control self-assessment, we identify and report control deficiencies, we ensure that assurance providers are independent and qualified. We plan assurance initiatives, we scope the assurance initiative and execute assurance initiative. We here means management. So management does all these things to see and understand how the internal controls are being done. So this is a completely for about 1 hour of revision of the CA Final ISCA first chapter. So tomorrow let us see the chapter number 2 revision there. I hope you liked it, my friends. You can get the description of these books in the description box below. The link has all the description about it. You can take in a starter preparation. So let's meet in the next video. Kindly give your comments of how the revision is all about. You can reduce the speed if you want, and kindly give me a thumbs up, it motivates me. And please share this video to your friends, and I want this our last attempt of ISCA to be the good and ever remembering attempt for you people. So do the revision with me for 1.5 or 2 hours a day for the ISCA thing, and happily go for the other papers without any worry for ISCA. And my suggestion, try to write one answer a day. It will make you very happy. When you write one answer, it's very good, it gives you a good practice there. So till then, students and my friends, let's meet in the next video. Take care.